United States Navy submarines, following the traditional pattern for submarine warfare, sank 5 million gross tons of enemy shipping in World War II. Thus did our submarines help prevent one of the world's greatest seafaring nations from gaining control of all of Asia. Since 1945, through the United Nations, we have worked with other countries to promote international understanding and prevent the outbreak of war. In spite of all our efforts, World War III became a reality less than 4 weeks ago. Communist rulers, faced with the rapid disintegration of political prestige at home and abroad, resorted to war against the free world as the only means of retaining and expanding their control. During 3 weeks of mounting international tension and 1 week of war, United States Navy submarines have made vital and outstanding contributions to the Allied war effort. Some aspects of our submarine operations can now be revealed. Before war started, 6 U.S. submarines were deployed to conduct routine training exercises. 2 nuclear type and 4 Guppy type submarines made up the force. Each vessel was supplied with a full complement of weapons. 2 of the subs were guided missile launchers. Each ship carried 2 missiles. Crews were advised that this was a simulated war patrol and to supply themselves with everything they'd need for an extended cruise. Sortie was by individual ship, with the Guppy subs departing first. They were to travel on snorkel as much as possible to avoid detection. All submarines were to avoid regular shipping lanes. The nuclear subs were to travel submerged. Simulated war patrol procedures were to be followed. Radio communication would be permitted only in case of extreme urgency. Submarine commanders were to take precautions to avoid all sightings, friendly or otherwise. Life aboard ship settled down to a familiar and frequently boring routine. At ComSublant headquarters 12 days after departure of the submarine group, a report was received from Seawolf.
Contact, snorkeler, 091123 Zulu, latitude 49 north, longitude 36 west, course 210, speed 8, request positions friendly submarines.
All friendly submarines in the area were accounted for. Seawolf's contact was classified unfriendly. By 1700 Zulu, Seawolf had reported 3 more submarine contacts. All were on approximate course 215. Two days later, one of our Guppy subs made a contact report. While traveling at a depth of 180 feet, sonar made contact with the snorkeling submarine. The tracking party determined the contact's course to be 214. 3 hours later, the same sub had another contact. When it too was evaluated to be a submarine, the captain decided to come to periscope depth and close for visual observation. If they were lucky, they might find him cruising on the surface. It was a brilliant moonlight night. Visual observation confirmed their fears. It also added a new and frightening possibility. The enemy sub had a hangar aft of the sail. It might contain a small boat. More likely, however, it concealed guided missiles with nuclear warheads. If this were true, a nuclear attack upon the United States was imminent. Since we were not actually at war, the captain was powerless to stop the missile launcher. For fear of starting the war ourselves, the command he wanted to give to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans could not be spoken. During 3 days' time, 6 probable enemy submarines had been detected accidentally. Their course, if maintained, would put them off our Atlantic coast within 10 days. Were enemy submarines being secretly deployed for a surprise missile attack on the United States? Were the communists making preparations to attack Allied shipping in the Atlantic? Or was there some other logical explanation? If the subs were part of an attack force, were they the first to be deployed or the last? It was imperative that these questions be answered. Orders to our submarine group were changed. Two Guppy submarines were detached from the group and ordered to establish an anti-submarine barrier. 4 other U.S. submarines on exercises south of Greenland were ordered to join them. The other submarines of the original group were to proceed as planned and launch missiles if ordered. 3 days later, in a vast, apparently deserted region, the first anti-submarine barrier sub arrived on station. 100 feet below the surface, the order was passed,
"Rig for ultra quiet. Rig for ultra quiet."
The long wait began. 5 days later, Seawolf, on reconnaissance station, made contact with a large surface force. The submarine came to periscope depth. There they were, 12 to 16 cruisers and destroyers of the enemy fleet. Air cover was plentiful. No exercises were being conducted. To avoid detection, the captain was forced to rely entirely on sonar information. During a period of 5 hours, the communist force continued on a westerly course at medium speed. 150 miles to the northwest, another United States submarine made contact with a similar force. It was also on a westerly course, but traveling at high speed. Contact could not be maintained due to the speed of the force. At about the same time, one of our missile launching subs arriving on station sighted a third force of cruisers and destroyers. Prompt radio contact reports were made on each task force. At headquarters, the 3 reports were added to the rapidly mounting evidence which pointed to an impending enemy attack. In addition to the suspicious action of the communist surface force, our submarine barrier patrol had reported a total of 29 enemy subs passing through their barrier. Along the east coast of the United States, all available anti-submarine forces were engaged in detecting and holding down missile-launching subs. The situation was extremely critical, as those in command tried to protect the nation without actually starting the war. At 13:05 Zulu, an amplifying report was received from Seawolf. All communist surface units had joined forces and were proceeding on a southwesterly course, speed 30 knots. Estimated number of ships, 30 cruisers and 64 destroyers. Minutes later, one of our missile launching subs reported many enemy long-range bombers sighted, course due west. The time at which the initial enemy attack on the United States occurred will never be forgotten. neither will we forget their attack in Europe. What may not be known is that a United States missile-launching sub fired its first missile at a long-range bomber base before most of the aircraft had been launched from that field. One hour later, another of our missile-launching subs fired missiles at a second vital military installation. The guidance submarine succeeded in placing the missiles on target. These were the first of many missile attacks launched against the enemy by our submarines. For our barrier patrol submarines, 3 weeks of terrible frustration came to an end as they were freed to conduct all-out war. Since many of the closest Allied airfields had been neutralized first by the enemy surprise attack, facilities in this area for handling short and medium-range Allied aircraft were greatly reduced. In a very real sense, the United States submarine barrier was all that stood between the enemy surface and submarine forces steaming south and thousands of unprotected Allied merchant ships along the North Atlantic trade routes. Once again, victory depended upon maintaining sea transportation across the Atlantic for the huge quantity of war materials needed by our allies. Arrayed against us were hundreds of enemy submarines yet to be deployed. Immediately available to defeat them were the submarines of our barrier patrol.
Con sonar has a high noise level bearing 039.
Very well, sonar. Let me know when you can identify the contact. Hope this is a good solid contact.
Hope so, Captain.
Con sonar contact now bears 040, possible snorkeler.
Is contact opening or closing, sonar?
Contact is closing, buzz bearings to plot, audio to con.
Very well, sonar. Send buzz bearings every 1 minute. Send audio to con.
Sonar aye.
Tracking party, man your stations.
Tracking party, man your stations, aye. All compartments, con. Tracking party, man your stations.
Bearing 043 is still drawing right, Captain.
Very well. Right full rudder, steady on course 100.
Right full rudder, steady on course 100.
Turn count 180, definite enemy snorkeler.
Very well, sonar. Man battle stations torpedo.
Man battle stations torpedo, aye. All compartments, con. Man battle stations torpedo.
Torpedo room, aye. Man battle stations torpedo. Bearing 047, Captain. Bearing 060.
Is the target within torpedo range?
Target is within torpedo range, Captain.
Get one good final bearing and shoot.
Set. Shoot. Fire one. Set. Shoot. Fire two.
This is one of many chapters of a conflict in which the modern submarine counters strong aggressor forces threatening our way of life. Its versatility in anti-submarine warfare, missile launching, and reconnaissance combine to make it a powerful arm of a Navy that controls the seas, and from the seas, their shores.